Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Firepit Chat with Ben and Joe. I'm Joe, and this is Ben. Hey, Ben,
Hey, Joe.
how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Glad to be on this with you.
All right, great. So Ben and I put this together. We're inviting you to join us at our fire pit as we talk about issues, ideas, faith, really things that we're all facing today in the world. And certainly our intention to bring a topic each episode, engage in discussion, debate, camaraderie, disagreement, agreement, all those different things. And so my name's Joe. I've been involved in recovery, spiritual, different programs throughout the last 30 years. I'm a dad, a member of the community, and really excited to be able to bring this to you. Hopefully, you'll find it as thought-provoking and engaging as I do. Why don't you talk about yourself, Ben?
Well, just briefly, I like you. I'm a dad, husband, and I've been a pastor actually for 15 years. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about thinking and how people's thinking and their lives change as a result of changes in their thinking. So I'm just very much looking forward to our conversations about this.
Our first topic for today is titled "My Responsibility" with a question mark. So a little bit of background on that, and here are some questions. Is it my job to wake someone up to my beliefs? All right. So am I here to wake somebody up to my own beliefs? Or is it my job to help someone wake up to their own beliefs, to seek their beliefs internally without fear, without bias, seeking their internal voice and only their internal voice? And if I believe in God and his existence and love for everyone, regardless of race, religion, or creed, then is my calling to wake them up to themselves and in turn to the divine relationship that exists in them from birth? So for me, this topic came up. It just seems like I'm struggling a lot, and I'll talk from myself. I'll try to use I statements, but I struggle a lot with this idea. Like, what's my job? I know so many things. And I am right all the time, and so
Yeah.
I've been thinking lately: is it my responsibility to make another person believe what I believe because
Mm.
I'm right?
Yeah.
And I struggle with that, and that's where this topic came from. And that should that be something I'm doing constantly, is trying to correct people, right? And when I do that, what do I lose? I lose a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I completely relate to those questions. So I've been thinking since you sent me these questions about this a little, and there's a lot of depth here, and I don't want to go, I don't want to deep dive too quickly, but something I was thinking about that I think maybe needs to be discussed before we can quite get to the specifics is your are your beliefs and my beliefs basically our own, in the sense that I have my truth and you have your truth. You believe your truth, I believe my truth. And that's just kind of it. I shouldn't challenge your truth because it's your truth, and you shouldn't challenge my truth because it's mine. And I think if that's actually how it is, then I think that trying to change each other's beliefs is almost an act of violence.
Right.
And so,
Well, because I was going to say when you said that, well, what if the other person's an idiot? I mean, like, or they don't
okay,
know anything, and those
right,
are sometimes the voice, and it seems like that's what's being played out today.
right,
Everyone else who's different from me is whatever.
right, right. So the question then maybe upstream that we have to, I think, ponder a bit is truth something that is beyond both of us, such that we can hopefully help each other toward it? Um, Now that's kind of a philosophical, metaphysical
Right.
thing to ask, and I don't want to, be too meta or abstract. But I think it's important to just think about that a little bit, because and when I say truth as something that's beyond both of us, I don't mean data, because I think it's one of the things in our modern world that maybe we tend to think is that truth means I have more being my beliefs being truer than yours means that I have more facts or more data than you do. And I think if we think about truth for a bit, it becomes clear that truth is often more than just information. It's often a perspective. It's a it can be a set of questions as much as a set of data points. Um, and we never arrive at perfect truth. Uh, it's always something, but it's really there, and so we can move toward it or move away from it together. Um, and so I think that's something maybe that is increasingly missing, at least as I see it in conversations today, is this idea that neither of us will ever perfectly arrive at the truth. And we're not going to necessarily get there simply by the road of more information, although information matters. I mean, facts do matter. But it's out there. There's this sort of transcendent horizon of reality toward which we can each individually move and toward which we can help each other move, so that I'm not assaulting you when I say that I don't think you're necessarily, your beliefs are fully true, and you're not assaulting me if you say that to me. That can actually be a very friendly thing to say, because we both want to seek the truth together. So does that make sense? I'm not trying to.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. One of the thoughts for me that, or fast phrases, a lot of times pop into my head is truth a singular state?
It's a great question.
And because I could be talking to you and I have my data or my beliefs, and those beliefs are formed from my 52
Mm-hmm.
years on Earth,
Mm-hmm.
and they're true to me. So
Yeah.
that's true to me, and then you have your sets and your beliefs and things that you've experienced in your life
Mm-hmm.
and learned, and that's true to you. And so I think what happens a lot is truth becomes singular state. So this is the
Yeah.
truth. If you don't believe it, you're out.
Yes.
And if you do believe it, you're in. But then if you're in and then don't believe the next truth, you're out.
Yes.
But then somebody else is now in. And so
Yes.
that's where I get, that's where I've been thinking a lot is it's not necessarily a singular state, but I think you're talking, at least what I heard you say, is there's a truth with a small t and there's a truth with the big T,
Mm-hmm.
the
Well,
capital T.
right. So maybe I could picture it this way. There's the old story about a bunch of people standing around an elephant, and one of them sees the tail and thinks that an elephant is an awful lot like a rope, and another one sees the tusk and thinks the elephant's a lot like a spear, and so on. And one of the things that's interesting about that story is that perspectives, as you just pointed out, little t truth really is perspective based.
Right.
I'm going to bring a certain understanding of things and certain information and certain experience to the table, because my story is my story. But I think that that's just how that's just it seems to me the reality when people only have as much access to the truth as their experience has allowed, and their experience gives them truth that other people are not going to have, just because their experience is their experience. But that's different from saying there's not an elephant at all.
Right. Right.
That Joe's a spear guy and I'm a rope guy, and my rope is my rope and his spear is his spear. We're not actually talking about an elephant. And that's what I'm just poking at a little, is how, just what you're saying. How do we maintain this idea that little t truth is in some ways unique to the individual, but that each of these little t truths can be a reflection of a kind of capital T truth, because there really is an elephant. Otherwise, it seems to me you're just left with your spear and I've got my rope and that's it.
Yeah, and what suffers is connection in that, right? So if
Correct.
if I hold my spear and point it at you, and you've got your rope stretched out in your hands ready to choke me,
Right.
we're not going to be able to connect. And so the thing that should connect us, which is truth, is the thing that separates us.
Right. So
And so we're not able to connect on the one
exactly.
thing that's true, which is there's an elephant here.
Exactly. That's precisely it. And so, we get to your specific question about beliefs then. Um, I want to be very respectful of the fact that your beliefs are formed in the matrix of your individual experience. But if I care about you, I'm also interested in making sure that you're, if I can put it this way, seeing more of the elephant, because that's what I want to do too. And I need you to help me do that, even as I hope to help you. Now, that to me is genuine collaboration in truth seeking. And it can become a true friendship in seeking truth, as opposed to you're just kind of in your truth silo and I'm in mine. And I don't know how that can be anything. At the best you can hope for then is just distance. It quite often turns combative.
Yeah, and I know for me, and I don't know if this is just me or there's other people, but I know I know there are times in my life where I couldn't allow truth to be um, a non-singular state. In other words, my
Mhm.
truth and your experience, because underneath all that was this belief: is if I acknowledge yours, it invalidates mine.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I need to get to a place where I can say this is true for me, and I have confidence and security in that this is true for me. And when I'm in that secure, confident place, then I'm not threatened by yours. I'm not
Right.
threatened by your belief. I'm not threatened by what you see. And
Right.
in fact, when I've done that, I've actually learned a lot, a
Hmm.
lot about other people. And then that thing that separated us now became something that could connect me.
Yes. Right. So one of the things that's, I think, liberating about the reality of capital T truth is that you don't entirely possess it and I don't entirely possess it, but both of us probably have fragments of it. So we can help each other, but it's not like Ben has capital T truth and, Joe's just kind of out there feeling his way along the edges. No, it's I don't have capital T truth. None of us is ever in possession of the capital T truth, but it's real and it's out there and we're both seeking it, which means I not only would expect both of us to fall short of it at points, which hopefully brings some humility, and it allows me to not be threatened by you because when I'm talking with you, I'm not up against capital T truth any more than I'm trying to pretend like I have the capital T truth. But it also allows us to expect to learn a lot from each other because you're undoubtedly seeing parts of this that I don't. Um,
Right. And what I have to guard against is believing I have capital T truth.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
I think everybody on Facebook and Twitter has capital T truth. I have to guard against that. Right? So that's my ultimate responsibility, is wake myself up to my own beliefs as opposed to wake you up to my beliefs, perhaps.
I would
And
actually say that is the definition of ideology,
mm,
is the loss of all self-doubt.
right. Good
you
luck.
know, the idea that I just somebody said, you want to kind of keep prying open that thing in your thinking that just considers you just might be wrong. But I actually think a high view of capital T truth keeps you in that place of wholesome health self doubt. That I probably have some insight, but I surely don't have the whole picture.
Right. And so one of the tenets of recovery is this idea, and I'm sure it's elsewhere, but I learned it in recovery, was the concept of attraction instead of promotion.
Mm,
So as I work on my small T truth and get that self-confidence, right, that ideology that you talked about, I will in turn radiate out something different that may attract people to me,
hmm.
that may bring them closer to me than me doing the capital T truth and say, this is the way it's going on, you dummies, this is
Yes.
what's happening.
Yes.
And so it got, it's amazing throughout my life. I keep saying how it keeps coming back to me. you know,
Yeah.
like that person harmed me, that person did whatever, but the Serenity Prayer tells us it comes back to me.
Yes. Yes. Well, so in my field of pastoral work and theology, there's a writer centuries ago who said that knowledge of God and knowledge of self are kind of two sides of one coin, which is to say, the more you understand yourself, the more you will begin to get some knowledge of God, and the more you know God, the more you'll know yourself. Not in any way saying that God and self are the same. I mean, God is God, and He's the creator, and we're the creatures. But it's interesting to think about the fact that the more I know God and capital T truth, if you will, the more it shows me myself as at best a mirror of that. Um, but also, the more I kind of study myself and know my own mind, the more I am actually coming to gain increasing insight into what capital T truth is and who God is. And again, that your quest for God and mine can lead us onto a common road. Your point about connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that as I contemplate, again, I'm right on everything, even being married 26 years, I still believe that. I don't know how, as if it beat mad at me,
Oh man, I know.
but yeah, it creates this disconnection. And so, and it's funny. Someone once said to me, a control freak, when they feel out of control, never thinks that controlling is the problem and sort of back off
Yeah.
from that. And I
Yes.
think the same thing. In wanting to connect, because I think that's just a natural urge of humans to want to connect. Sometimes I will go overboard, and I'm definitely guilty of this in my life. And in this time, I'm trying to be aware of that. Go overboard with the thinking I have the truth, and what I'm trying to do is connect. And
Hmm.
when I stop doing that and go back to, okay, have confidence in my truth, and that invites the other person in, attracts that other person in, then we can have connection. And it
Right.
takes two to tango for sure.
Right.
And everybody's in their own place. So but just going back to the topic, is it's not necessarily my job to wake someone to my beliefs,
Yeah.
but the idea is for wake up to my own beliefs, get
Hmm.
secure and confident, seek the capital T truth, which
Hmm.
we talked about comes from God, and from that place I may radiate out and create a space that would be welcoming other people, and we can have connection. Because I
Yeah.
think I know for myself at a human level, the connection is what I want, connection with other
Right.
human beings.
Right. So let me throw a monkey wrench in the works. I totally agree with all of that.
Okay.
How we've identified, and I'm totally here too. Our tendency to think that I have capital T truth. How do you relate to someone who perhaps thinks that they have capital T truth? Um, because one of the things I wonder if we can do in a truly friendly way is help those who are extremely certain develop kind of some healthy self-doubt. I often honestly don't know if it's so much waking people up to their own beliefs as kind of waking people up to just good questions, and because
Right.
isn't that what we're kind of doing for ourselves all the time? Just stepping back and saying, I feel very certain about this, but I just wonder if I've missed something. And I just wonder if there are ways, again, in a non-belligerent way, to help those who just have ironclad certainty about their beliefs, just maybe go back again and look again.
Yeah, for myself, two things that come up right away. One is modeling,
Yes.
right? So I can, so in 12 step, they say, I may be the only copy of the big book somebody sees, right?
Mhm.
You may be the only copy of the Bible that somebody sees if they're not in that. So how do I conduct myself?
Very good. Yes.
And how do I act in the face of that? Do I meet their T, their capital
Right.
T, with my capital T, and I've got the spear, and you got the rope, and we're
Yeah.
bloody, and I'm choking you, and
Right.
or do I model something that obviously I'm modeled much better than I will ever do by Christ, right? So it's that acceptance, because I think it starts with that confidence and that connection. I
Agreed.
want to have connection with others, but I think I'm proportionally able to connect with others as I'm connected to God.
I agree completely, and I think one of the things related to that is maybe important just to mention is this capital T truth, and as a Christian, I would say this is the living and true God. It's not the capital T truth is not this passive thing out there. It's personal, and it has a way of revealing itself and making claims on people on its own. And so
Right.
I can have confidence and peace that God doesn't need me, capital T truth doesn't need me to be its grand champion in the world, even assuming I have some idea what that capital T truth is, that I have some knowledge of God. I don't have to become a crusader. Um, you know, God doesn't need me to defend him all the time, or fight on his behalf. And so it just kind of, like you're saying, it just calms you down to realize, it's okay. It takes time. Everybody's in a process. And as I'm just connected to God and I'm seeking capital T truth, I can just have peace that, he's at work in other people too. And so, it just takes some burden off my shoulders and calms me down, which I guess as a pastor, I'm pretty sensitive to this.
Sure. Well, a lot of times it's funny that you say that, because I will say, well, he's working on them,
Hmm.
but hopefully he's working on me too,
Yes.
because
Oh, absolutely.
when I'm saying that, I'm forgetting myself in
Yep.
that, right? And
Right.
that's where I need to check myself and say, okay, where am I here? And I think the
Absolutely.
only place I'm called, and you're more well versed in this. I think the only place I'm called is to continue to work on myself
Hmm.
and continue to try to do these things within myself, within my relationship with God,
Mm.
so I can radiate that out. And I'm human, as we all are. I'm a flawed man, I'm not always successful,
Yep.
but I'm thinking and trying, aiming for perfection, knowing I may not get there.
Right. No, I love what you said about modeling, because so much more is caught through just seeing a truth seeker at work, than I'm kind of trying to proselytize all the time. But then if you do end up in a connection with someone where there's genuine receptivity, then of course there's a lot you can contribute to each other. And I don't think we should have any embarrassment about genuinely influencing each other. That's part of the wonder of human community, is that you're going to change the way I think, and it's a privilege to be on the receiving end of that from a friend.
Yeah, to learn. Yeah, the opportunities for learning, and I see a lot in my life is when things have been quote unquote bad, they were really opportunities that God gave me to learn. And
Yep.
so even in this time, or even with somebody who is convinced that they've got the only answer,
Hmm.
if I can get into that place, I still can learn something
Hmm.
about myself that I could take and bring. And maybe if it's not with that person, I've still
Yes.
learned something that I bring into other relationships. I bring into my
Yep.
relationship, whether it's my relationship to myself or to God or the community.
It's been a kind of a strange lesson for me over the years as a pastor and just as a person, that I have learned some deep things from some of my harshest and most unfair critics. People that are very confident in beliefs that I actually think are very wrong, and yet I've still
Right.
learned from them.
Yes. Yeah. I had. I'll just. I had a customer in the state of California, and I was doing a software system, and I could do nothing right. And I
Right.
got so frustrated by her, and it went on for months and months. And I wanted to drop the account. I was going to ask, can we drop this account? And then finally, something switched in me, and I realized she was one of my greatest teachers, and
Mm.
that she made the software better.
Yeah.
And even though the delivery maybe wasn't good, or I didn't like the tactics, at the
Hmm.
end of the day, the product that we were delivering was better.
Yes.
But it was
Yeah.
so humbling to flip in my head to say, this person who's tormented. I mean, I would wake up from nightmares from
Oh
these
yeah.
meetings
I know.
and realize this person was a great helper of mine.
Yeah, and of course, I think the toughest place to actually put that to work is in families. Where
Yes.
families. Let's just be honest. We're just very unfair toward each other a lot, and yet if we're able to receive that, there's a lot to learn. So, uh, yeah, I love that. I love that story.
Yeah, yeah, and so I could think for myself that, so just getting back to the top a little bit. So I don't know that it's my job to wake someone up to my beliefs. Probably my job is to wake myself up to my beliefs, to go
Hmm.
deeper into them, to get
Hmm.
that confidence
Hmm.
and that security, and then try to radiate that out.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you're a person who is constantly asking good questions, not because you want other people to ask those questions necessarily, but just because you yourself are constantly questioning and examining your own belief system with humility and curiosity and eagerness to learn, that is going to rub off. Those questions will become contagious. I believe they can become contagious, not with everybody, but with a lot of. Some of the best friends I've ever had, from whom I've learned the most, have been people who just ask great questions.
From those questions could spark something else,
Right.
right? And the thing that I have to remember is I may not get what I want. And
Yeah.
thank God for that.
Yeah.
Whether it's the connection, the output of those questions, that people even ask questions, because there may be some people not in that space that
Hmm.
this is true, true is true, and that's it. There's only one truth.
Yep.
I may not get what I want, and that's okay. And to me, that's, like I say, I may not get what I want, and thank God for that.
There's a great line in the movie The Big Kahuna, where this older salesman says to a young associate, he says, "The minute you're trying to take a conversation somewhere, it's not a conversation anymore; it's a sales pitch." And I've thought about that a lot as a pastor, as a dad. When you have an agenda, like it's got to go here, I got to fix these people thinking about this. It's a sales pitch. You're not really relating with them anymore. You're not really connecting with them anymore. You're kind of trying to manipulate them. And just what you were saying, I think, where am I trying to go with this? Do I need it to go somewhere? Do I need it to end up in the right place? That those are kind of, when I feel that inside of me, I realize I'm probably off the rails. So
Yeah, and because at that point I now have an agenda,
right.
And that agenda breaks the connection between us because it's not about us. I'm trying to now use you to
Yes,
further my agenda, and therefore we break the connection, and we may have lost the God part of the connection because
precisely.
I've suddenly now imposed my agenda on you, and we're, probably real connection at that point is going to be difficult, if not impossible.
Right, and that gets right back to what you said earlier about kind of a sovereignty complex. So yeah, that's very helpful the way you frame that.
So these are wild times, and
Mm,
I'm glad we have the opportunity to talk this through
yes.
and bring this up. I know we've got a bunch of topics we've scheduled and for upcoming episodes, and I'm just really glad we're doing this. I found this helpful. I think for me to approach the world, this is even this little bit of time, this
Yeah.
little bit of thoughts, it changes my approach, to the world
Yep.
and my place in it, which is a topic later. So,
Well, looking forward to it. And it's certainly the same for me. And there's just a lot more to explore, and I'm looking forward to it a lot.
all right, so why don't we put a wrap on this episode, episode 1. It's titled "My Responsibility." We're glad everybody you came and joined us here by the fire pit, and look forward to sharing more topics with you in the future. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.